So I think there's only really two more things I want to talk about. I do have the wholesale rig now, but it's kind of doesn't really matter. We could have stopped before we put all the intermediate ties on and still gone over the same things. Mast rake and your main sheet bridle. So mast rake is another very, very, very primary control that sets up the entire balance of everything, your whole boat. So unfortunately our boat isn't adjustable on the mast rake here, but to keep it really simple, what you want to look for mast rake is that your boom is perfectly horizontal in the biggest puff of the upwind leg. So that should be when your main sheet's trimmed the tightest, your spars are bending the most, which means it'll be lower than the lowest it's ever going to get. When you're 100% fully trimmed, fully hiked out and loaded up in the biggest puff of the upwind leg, your boom should be perfectly horizontal, which means most of the time it's going to be just slightly above horizontal. So that's usually a sign that your mast rake's correct. The numbers are usually like 110 to 114 for the lightest sailor to the heaviest and most aggressive. Well, you guys all know that already. I think that the real thing is understanding how your boat feels and adjusting your mast rake often and frequently, depending on keeping that boom perfectly horizontal in the biggest puff of the upwind leg. Now, as the wind increases, your spars are going to bend more, your mast is going to bend more, your boom's going to bend more, and your boom will be lower, and it'll start to dip below horizontal. So as the wind increases, you have to do a few turns to the right to get your mast rake farther forward, and that is going to keep your boom level and compensate for the spars bending and lowering it so much. And then in the light air, you can spin it to the left to keep the boom high, or to keep the boom low when the mast isn't bending at all, if that makes sense. So it's almost a little counterintuitive because we're going forward when it gets windy and light when it gets back, but what's actually happening is really we're ending up in the exact same spot because what we're doing is compensating for the bend of the spars. Now, I have seen very, very good sailors go plenty fast with their boom a little bit lower than the settings that I talked about, dipping, almost averaging around horizontal and being a bit lower in the puffs. So, but I think it makes a bit of a finer groove to drive to, and it can be very easy to stall out and go slow if you do make a mistake. So it's not as forgiving. So what I like to teach originally is go for that perfectly horizontal boom in the biggest puff, and then as you improve and become a better sailor, you don't have to follow everything that I say or any of your coaches say exactly. If you find something that works better, do that. If it works, it works. If it's better, it's better. If it's faster, it's faster. Do not stop doing something that works better just because someone says something else. So you have to learn control. You have to learn what everyone else is saying, all the knowledge that's out there, and then after you've learned control and had a complete understanding of what everyone else is saying, then you can start to kind of customize your setup and find tiny little things that make you go a little bit faster. And that's the same thing like for the bands here, which are almost not existent on this mast. I teach to keep them originally perfectly in the center line. As sailors get better, they tend to creep them up a little bit higher in the bands. And mainly that's because the first thing I'm trying to teach is control and precision in your setup, and the middle just gives you a good place to aim for, and it keeps you out of the possibility of going out of your bands. And usually what ends up happening is sailors end up slightly too tight on their luff tension, and if I don't check every sail exactly, you end up having to put a half a twist on the water, and you go up a little bit anyway. Now, the main sheet bridle, I don't know how to turn the camera around, and I don't think I need to stop. No one ever gets these tight enough, okay? They have to be as tight as possible, and the main thing is boat handling. You want more space to be able to tack. If you can tack better, it's going to make you smarter, it's going to make you faster, it's going to, tacks make you a smarter sailor and a faster sailor, because there's actually not so much of a division between boat handling, boat speed, and tactics as people think. When you have better handling, it translates into better speed because you're synced up with your body weight, your main sheet movement, your steering of the boat. All those factors are in harmony with each other. If you can tack better than everyone else because you can do all those things, you're going to be faster in a straight line. If you're faster in a straight line, you're going to at least look like you're a lot smarter than you were before. So tightening this thing up as tight as you possibly can get it. Make yourself some more room for boat handling. It seems to still be a good thing for the stretch of the boom. This is very, very, very far forward, which is fine for light air. In heavy air, you're gonna be wanting to creep it back a little bit. Otherwise, you're gonna be bending the boom a little too much in the front and not enough overall. So some sailors I've seen have, as far as I know, it's class legal, I think, to have two of these guys, one here and one here. But then you kind of have to have two safeties, and that gets a little clunky. Or you just have one that you're able to slide, but if you're tight enough, you can't really slide it. So it's a tricky one. And then this safety line here, this am I showing it? This safety keeper, you do want to make sure that this isn't what's actually bending the boom. You do want the tension on the bridle, not on the safety keeper. So this one right here, it would all be on this. The entire boom would be bending from this single point instead of distributed across the bridle, because the bridle's too loose and the safety's too tight and too far forward. So, yeah, that's all important stuff that's entirely overlooked. If you that little bit higher on the main sheet bridle is really going to improve your tacks just by giving you that tiniest little bit of extra clearance, and it's just better sailing, and it also enables you to not have to have the preventer safety line taking up any tension, bending the boom from where it's not supposed to be bent.